Hey guys, so today I'm going to talk about how to pass step 3 as a busy surgical resident. I'm going to talk about my experience and the strategy that I used to minimize my time and kind of try to maximize my results. This applies for any surgical resident or any subspecialty, surgical subspecialty resident. We all know that none of us have significant amounts of time to study, and it's really a crunch period to try and get this done and just pass. So I'll talk about my strategy and hopefully it can work for you. So overall, my basic philosophy on step 3 was to take it on an easier rotation, for example, an elective rotation or a VA rotation. In general, looking back, I would have taken the step 3 exam as soon as I could, probably in first or second year. I ended up taking it as a senior resident, which I really regret and made the whole process a little more painful for me. But ultimately, you should take it when you are ready and when you have had time to study. Don't sleep on this exam. Don't act as if this is not a serious, intensive exam. It's quite difficult in absolute terms. You do not want to just brush this exam off. It's not just a give me test. The curve is very, very generous, but there are people out there that have failed this test. So you don't want to have to retake this test if you don't have to. Mainly, this test examines clinical judgment. So if you've been on the wards or managing patients, or if you've had like a critical care rotation, that will all help you and build your foundation for taking this test. There's a lot of minutia questions that you can miss as long as you're consistently getting some of the more basic clinical questions correct. For example, next steps in management, getting a chest x-ray, starting oxygen, getting a UA, basic management techniques. In general, I used three resources: UWorld, the CCS cases, and Randy McNeil for biostats. If you have time, I would do the AMBOSS biostats and ethics section, but this is optional. And then I would take at least a month to try and finish these resources, maybe 2 months spread out after your clinical duties each day. So when it comes to UWorld, what I would do is try to do at least one pass, at least. Whatever method that you need to do to get through it, tutor mode, exam mode, whatever it takes, just get through it, kind of learn each key point, and then move on. If you get the question right and you didn't guess on the question, you don't need to review it other than the key point. Just keep moving, keep chugging through UWorld. The point is to see volume and to get repetition. You do want to do the supplementary 150 or 200 questions that they added. I thought it was helpful and high yield. And then critically, you want to hit your incorrects, as many of your incorrects before the exam as you can. So you want to build that into your schedule as able, just because it'll help solidify the areas that you were weak on the test. If you have time, I would again do the AMBOSS ethics and biostats questions just because those topics are so high yield on the exam. When it came to the CCS cases, I would first organize the cases by high yield. There's an option to sort the cases based on how people have voted them for being high yield. And I would make sure to do at least 100 of the high yield cases minimum. Ideally, the more you can do, the better. And I would shoot for 120, but I think 100 of the high yield cases is the bare minimum you should do. And then I would again repeat the lowest scoring ones you have. Anything where you were substantially below average, I would redo those just to make sure you're not having a glaring error in a knowledge base or in your technique or in the approach you had, the clinical approach you had to that anecdote. And then I did dabble with the UWorld CCS cases, but the way it's set up is not helpful, in my opinion. And so if you're crunched for time, I would not even bother looking at the UWorld CCS cases. And then there's a bunch of UWorld, I'm sorry, CCS mnemonics that are available out there that I would find one that is easy for you to memorize and memorize that one and stick with it and apply it to every case until it becomes secondhand. The other resource that I used was Randy McNeil. I thought it was very high yield for biostats. I think you can review his 4 video series, and if you can know that cold for the test, you're pretty well prepared for biostats, in my opinion. If you haven't done biostats in a while, I would hit the Randy McNeil YouTube videos, take notes, memorize that, then hit the questions. You'll probably need to refresh this kind of topic area closer to the exam again, just because it's so easy to forget the minutia of the biostats questions. In terms of time management on the day of the test, I would triage for time. So, for example, there's these infamous drug ad questions on the exam. I would personally leave those for the last questions for each section, just because I was more interested in scoring points elsewhere. And those questions can soak up a lot of time. So I would save those for the end. And same goes for any question where I was really struggling or couldn't remember the answer. I would just flag it and move on. The point is you want to score as many points as you can as quickly as you can. Which assessments that I felt were most helpful were the free 120, or it might be free 130, and then NBME 6 and 7. There are 2 NBMEs that are available right now. I personally skipped the UWorld self-assessments, and using those 3 exams, I was able to, in addition to the UWorld overall correct percentage, I think these were fairly predictive of my score. I actually found that the AMBOSS score predictor was pretty accurate. ChatGPT, oddly enough, was also fairly predictive once I fed it my stats. I personally skipped long passive resources like divine intervention. It's helpful if you have time to go over risk factors, and there's a few Reddit posts floating around about high yield divine intervention podcasts. I would make these your lowest priority and only do these if you really have time to go through the divine intervention risk factor podcast, just because there's so much minutia in those risk factors, and although it is high yield, um, I think the cost benefit of going through these resources and then trying to remember it for test day is not that great. And then the Amboss Cubeg has an excellent reputation as far as I could glean from Reddit forums. However, I did not use them as I did not have the time. I only had time to do the biostats and ethics sections because those are so high yield for the exam. In summation, I would focus on doing UWorld, CCS cases, and Randy McNeil. I would make sure to review your incorrects in UWorld and your lowest scoring cases in CCS. Remember to triage your time on the exam. Try not to be too anxious. The curve is generous, and most people pass. And then the ethics and biostats topics are very high yield in general. Good luck for your exam.